down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
All right, Savvy investors, you tuned in again to the Savvy Radio Show. Yeah, I had to clear my throat. I'm so excited that you tuned in. My name is Stephen VanCauwenbergh. Yep, I am the Savvy Landlord. And today I want to get your juices flowing. You know, the biggest thing I heard from a rookie investor, I can't find deals. Well, your mind is not focused in the right area. You're not trained. Opportunity is everywhere. So I'm going to give you some places to find property. Attorneys, who have properties to sell. That's right. If someone somebody, you know, I used to work in the wedding business, and somebody knew somebody that was getting married. It was inevitable. Somebody is always getting married this weekend. And you know someone that's getting married. I know a friend that just got married. So even doesn't matter how old you are, someone is selling a house somewhere, somehow, and you don't know about it. But attorneys may know about it. So if you have a friend that's an attorney, or your wife's friend, or your husband's friend, or your significant other, or your partner's friend, whatever, somebody knows somebody who's an attorney, and you might want to ask them, do you know anybody that's selling any property? Another way to find property is bankruptcy records at the courthouse. Yes, it's a public domain, public record that there is a bankruptcy going down and lis pendings, and you can find bankruptcy records there. Now, you can do a whole course on that, but that's another avenue that you can find deals through bankruptcies. Another one you may not have thought about is a CPA. Yep, certified public accountants. They have tons of clients, and they do a lot of, you know, my CPA does 1031 exchanges. So in an issue of a 1031 exchange, they need to buy property, or they're trying to sell property to buy new property without any kind of tax burden. Well, CPAs obviously are mad involved in that, obviously. So you need to contact your CPA. If you don't know a CPA, contact CPA. Say, hey, my name is Joe Investor. I buy properties. Maybe one of your clients needs to sell for specific reasons, and I would love to help them out. Tax certificates and sales lists. That's right. County courthouse again, or tax deeds. You just never know when property changes hands. What are they going to do with it? Maybe they're overwhelmed by it. It could be three months ago that they purchased a property. You know, I bought a property, 9 months later, man, I want to get rid of it. That's what happens. But all that information is recorded at the courthouse. So you might want to take a trip down to the courthouse. All right. Another way is a tried and true way is send letters to owners of non-occupied, aka absentee owners, and free and clear property. So you want to make sure that they are free and clear. If you can, you might do some due diligence and some work, finding out what property is assuming. You can go back and look at the records when they filed the deed. Do they have a mortgage on the property? Another way to find deals is expired listings. You can actually get with a realtor and say, hey, send me all the expired listings, and you can look at them. Craigslist, yes, I know a lot of young millennials don't even know what Craigslist is anymore. It's fascinating, but still the baby boomers are posting stuff on Craigslist. It's another avenue that I would definitely take my time. Years ago, I used to spend 10 minutes a day on Craigslist, and I would yield deals. So you should do the same thing. Drive through different neighborhoods that you normally don't drive through. So you want to just, you know, take a left, take a right somewhere that you've never been before. Look for FSBO signs, obviously. I'm going to cover that here in a minute. But anything that has tall grass, and you can, you know, hire a VA, give them the address, and they can find the owners, and then do some research and trying to get their phone number from there. Eviction court, man, this is a secret weapon a lot of people don't know about. I don't know if you've been to eviction court anytime soon, but there is a lot of tired landlords there. And especially if the tenant did show up, it's comical to be in the courtroom during this process. But if the tenant did show up and it's a battle between the landlord, you might want to, after that, say, man, I understand your pain. And after the court hearing, you could say, hey, you know, if you ever want to sell or know anybody that would sell, I would love to connect with you. And I'm telling you, it works. A couple months later, a couple of weeks later, the guy can't get it rented. Next thing you know, he's calling you to sell. Another one is, of course, when you're going through the neighborhoods, look for the red and white sign, my favorite sign. Sometimes their signs are just white with black writing, but it's for sale by owner signs. Now, usually when you call them, you have to ask yourself, why are they selling? Maybe they don't like real estate, realtor agents. Maybe they are greedy and they want the full 6%, or whatever the case may be. But you would never know about FSBOs, for sale by owners. You should definitely write them down, call them. And the question that I always ask when I call them, how did you arrive to that price? How'd you get, what makes you want X amount of money? And I mean, after you kind of build the relationship and build rapport, but it gets them thinking, maybe that price isn't the exact price. And then the next question, how long have you been trying to sell the property for? And so those are two quick questions I ask. How did you arrive to that price? And how long has you been trying to sell the property? And I never say house or home or I always say property, and it just desensitizes what you're trying to buy, and it's not an emotional process. Foreclosure publications is another avenue. You can find these online. You can subscribe to these. Some of them are scammy and slimy, but you never know. You might want to do some due diligence, call some friends and say, hey man, how do you find your foreclosure deals? What I do is I look up the county of records and I find banks that have foreclosed on people. That's how I do it. But foreclosure publications do that work for you. If it's minimal fee, then definitely jump on it. Of course, the big daddy MLS, multiple listing services, is still, a lot of people have not found deals on there. But when it gets to the end, if it's been listed for 90 days, 120 days, definitely put in offers. You need to work with a real estate agent, but there's still deals out there. It just takes, anyone that complains, it just takes a little bit longer than you're used to. When a deal does come on the MLS, it usually is gobbled up pretty quick. So I know when I see something on the MLS, I know it's been on there for a while, and they'll be more willing to negotiate. So newspaper ads is another avenue, houses for sale. And, I know the newspaper industry is dying rapidly. Just like the other day, I got a phone book in my mailbox. I'm like, what in the world? And so that went right to the recycle bin. But newspaper ads online or another avenue. And that's someone, I don't know what the generation after baby boomers are, but people that are in around 70s, 80s, 90s, they advertise through the newspaper. If they're by themselves and they're trying to sell a property, that's an avenue definitely you want to consider. Another magazine or a weekly publication is like your weekly in Oklahoma City. It's called the Gazette. Sometimes there's houses listed in there. Also, church publications are another avenue that I've considered looking into. The one locally that's a large one is called the Baptist Messenger. You may want to run an ad in there. Hopefully that inspired you. I'm telling you all my tricks, but no one ever does anything I tell them to do anyway. So that may, if you want to change up your marketing, or you got a few dollars, try something new, try something out of the box, be creative. All right. People that are currently making 2 mortgage payments, that is usually a great sign. Like myself, I'm moving and I'm making 2 mortgage payments. Man, am I motivated to sell my old residence? Absolutely. So check into that. People that are transferring jobs, you can see when you read the newspaper, people are moving from, let's say Tennessee, the Amazon plant, and they're moving it to Oklahoma City. So people that are in Tennessee may be selling their property, and the same thing happens to Oklahoma City all the time. Oil jobs get moved overseas. So that might be an avenue that you might want to consider. A recent death in the family, you can check newspapers for that. It's kind of creepy, but it works. You also want to check records that people that are getting divorced. When a search that I do in Craigslist, I just type in the word divorce, and I'll see a guy or a gal trying to sell a bunch of stuff. And, what's wrong with asking them, what are you going to do with your property? Is the property for sale? I'm talking about your residence. I'm not talking about your material property. So that's another avenue that you may want to consider is going after divorces. A realtor always called me all the time. He's like, do you know anyone that's selling property? I thought that was interesting. It must be a Keller Williams training thing, but he would call me all the time randomly. Hey, do you know anyone that's selling a property or needs to buy a property? I mean, I guess it's just a line down their training, but someone is selling property somewhere. Another one is real estate investment clubs in your area. There's tons of them. There's several in our market, and here in Oklahoma City, there's usually at least one, even in small towns. I know they're going to create another one in Norman pretty soon, hopefully. So they're selling property. They know about property that's for sale. I think an untapped market is supermarkets in small, low income areas. There's owners that are going shopping there, and they need to sell. They need to move out and move into assisted living. Big sign or a big flyer in a supermarket bulletin board, or bulletin boards in general. Libraries are a great place. Vacant homes, again, we talked about that a minute ago, about driving around neighborhoods, all AKA driving for dollars. You might want to consider that. Another in cahoot thing that I just thought about would be appraisers. Appraisers know that properties are being sold and bought on a regular basis or in a specific market. You might want to call them. Another one way is to call a real estate investor that has more than, say, 50 or 100 or 200 units. They always have someone, but they always have some property that they're willing to sell. Maybe a headache at that time. I remember when I got in the game back in 1999, my mentor, always had a list of properties that he was trying to sell. Sometimes he would do creative financing, $2,000 down, $3,000 down, boom, you're in the property. And it wasn't smoking deals, but, he got it off of his inventory, and I was able to buy a property. Another sad way is when people lose their jobs. I've seen a lot of flex when the oil crashed here in Oklahoma City. A lot of higher end homes were moving. A lot of subject twos were in place. If you don't know what a subject to is, that is that you're purchasing someone or taking over someone else's property, basically paying their loan for them. It still stays in their name. You're taking the property subject to an existing mortgage. Maybe we'll do a podcast on that. And ultimately, bing, 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 bandit signs. They are tried and true. They work. Of course, they're flooded everywhere, but be creative with that. There is some zonings in some markets, so you might want to consider that as well. But you got to think about where, real estate is happening. You got to think about where can you be a help. It's a problem that they have. They're trying to sell a property, and you are a problem solver. If you have that mentality in your mind that you're willing to help people, and you're come across asking people for help, like how could I help you in real estate? I love when people ask me landlord questions, because maybe one day they'll think of me and they have a property for sale. Anyway, hopefully this podcast helped you, encouraged you, and to get off the couch and start looking for deals. Whatever you do, go buy assets so you can give back.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook, and always be buying assets.